Hi everybody, Leslie here, back in my craft lab, and today's video is something a little bit different. It's kind of half review, but there are some card ideas as well. But I'm also going to talk about cheap craft supplies versus expensive craft supplies, and just ways that we can choose how we spend our money on our crafting. These came from the range. It's 20 sheets of A4 300 GSM paper. It's actually black watercolour set. And it came with these two sets of 6 metallic watercolours, and this cost $4.99. And I bought that a few weeks ago. It's still in the shop. I checked this week. So I decided after I'd swatched these, I wanted the other colourway that they do. So they definitely have 3 colourways. The individual ones, they cost £1 for 6 metallic watercolour paints. And I thought, well, they're probably not going to be that good. They're probably going to be really wishy-washy and not great in comparison with my Gansai Tambi. Don't get me wrong, these are fabulous watercolour paints. In this 36 colour set, I've got 3 metallic. If you've seen lots of crafters that do splattering and things with metallic splatter, it's usually Gansai Tambi that they use. And my daughter's used some of these in her Art A levels. Not professional, but semi-professional pieces that she has to hand in and are getting examined. And she loves these. They are expensive. This set of 36, I did a price check on Amazon today. The cheapest I can find that for is £47. I think I paid about £50 for mine when I got it. And I got it as a Christmas present. At £47 for 36, that would make each individual pan a minimum of £1.30. Whereas these at £1 for 6 come out at about, what, 16.5p. Gansai Tambi do 6 packs that look pretty much identical to this. These are obviously a dupe, and I did a price comparison on Amazon this morning. They varied depending on which colourway, and they're not exactly the same as this, by the way. So like the bright, it's not got a grey in it, they're bright set. So I think this is like the neutrals, the pastels, the brights. From the cheapest I saw a 6-pack for was £10.45, and I think that was for the more pastel colours. I saw one at like £15 and then one at £12. So if we took £12 as an average, the 6 packs of metallics would come out at about £2 per pan. Again, £2 per one colour versus 16.5p per colour. That's the price comparison. It is massive difference. So I've already swatched onto black, because black is where metallic really comes alive if it's a good opaque paint. This is my swatch system. I'll link to how I use my swatches and my swatch system and why they've got this little notch and things out the bottom. This is the more neutral set. It is a really lovely shiny metallic. This is the pastels, which is where I thought it might fall down and be really wishy-washy. The purple's maybe not that bright on the black, but it's not bad. I haven't swatched this set yet. This is the Gansai Tambi ones, and just as a comparison, so this is obviously more similar to these. If anything, my cheap ones, my inexpensive, some of them look more, let's say more opaque on the black than these do, and it's on the same card that these are on. Which one would you have said was the expensive one versus the cheap one? To my eye, the cheap ones actually look more opaque and shinier than the Gansai Tambi. So I was pleasantly surprised. I don't think there's any difference with the colour of the packaging. In some of the sets with the black paper, it was this white packaging, and in some of them it was this black packaging, but I think the paint inside was exactly the same colour sets. I've got one of my little black strips ready to go. I've got 4 white strips ready to go. These are actually watercolour cards. In my swatch system, I'm going to add the white here onto the same card so that you can see them swatched on both. This is just water. This is a recycled oil spray bottle. It gives a nice fine mist, but I'm not going to spray it over my desk and soak everything because my computer's sitting just in front of me. So you'll see pretty quickly, these get really nice and creamy. It doesn't take much. You have to do this with the Gansai Tambis as well, by the way. Have a really good, soak them and let it go into your brush. Can you see how vibrant that is? I think for a 16p pot of paint, that's amazing. And while I've got it on my brush, I am going to do my white one at the same time because I'll only have to wash my brush once. And obviously you can make these thinner and wash them out. I just want to show you my little water pot. I don't know if you can see how swirly and amazing it looks. I keep thinking I should put this into a spray bottle when I'm finished. So that's not dry yet, but you can see it's pretty opaque on the black and looks really amazing on the white. I've touched on it in videos before. I'm a card maker. I'm not an artist. I'm not making massive, great works of art that are going to last forever. Great if somebody loves my card and saves it and keeps it on the mantelpiece for a month. That's all I'm expecting at the most. If the product works as I expect it to, I'd rather spend my money on things that support people in the craft industry. So I wouldn't buy counterfeit stamps. So all these cheap stamps that are just copies of other people's designs, don't care what website you're buying them from, they're probably stolen images. I don't mind if it's a basic shape. So I would go on AliExpress, Temu, whomever it is that you can find cheap craft supplies for, and buy basic circle dies or basic square dies. You can't copyright. You're not stealing anybody's original artwork or anything like that. So for some things, yeah, it's great. Choose where you spend your money. But things like blending brushes, sponges, I use beauty sponges from pound shops. The same with the blending brushes. In the UK, it took a very long time for any of the craft companies to bring their blending brushes to the UK. So my first set of blending brushes was this set, and they were beauty brushes off Amazon. They were identical. Does it work with my inks? Yeah, works perfectly well. In fact, it works better than some of the craft ones that I've had. They were in the beauty industry before they were in the craft industry, and some bright spark just thought, oh, would they work with inks if they work with makeups? And yeah, they do. So again, you're not stealing somebody's intellectual property if you buy the cheaper version of something like a blending brush. That's my viewpoint on it, that, you know, choose where to spend your money. To me, they perform pretty well. They're pretty much the same size. They're pretty much the same depth. Are these in as nicer finished off plastic? No, probably not. And the Gansai Tambi ones have got a number and a name printed on the base. You could just put a sticker or write marker pen on the base of these. There are slightly different colourways in the 6-packs with the Gansai Tambi, but it depends what you want in terms of the colours. So I'd show you how these work on a couple of different things. This is just watercolour card. I just did a really fast wash over the top. I mixed some of the colours. This is just a plastic palette. You can do it onto a glass mat. You can do it onto tile, anything. Like any other watercolour, you can reactivate them. You can colour mix, and these had been going dry for about 3 or 4 days while I was off doing something else. So this is it, sort of more watered down. There's some pink, there's some purple in this one. Reactivate them the same you would any other watercolour. This is the Crafter's Companion, the Anemones die. I cut it out once, and this was out of the watercolour card that came with the range watercolours. I actually kind of deliberately made sure it didn't cut particularly well because I wanted the pieces to stay in. So any of the pieces that were coming out, I just popped a bit of tape back there. I just did really messy painting on there, and I watered it down. And like I say, I was doing a bit of colour mixing, so I've got a bit of pink and purple in there. I've got all sorts of different colours in there. And then I just cut another layer, cut that one properly, so you can lay it on top. So you can be really messy painting, and then we could lay it on top. And I was debating whether to put that on a black card, and then I debated putting it on this one, but then I realised actually that looks quite nice. So you've got the pink and then the orange and then the sort of the green at the bottom, so you don't need to spend hours colouring if you don't want to. So I was thinking maybe that one onto a black card, and then we could go with this one onto a white. And I could use my frame if I wanted to. All sorts of different ways we could use it, all giving different effects, but just that was with, like I say, it was with probably 4 colours because I'd mixed some of the pink with the purple, and I think I've mixed some of the yellow with the green to make it a bit brighter greens. I'm going to finish these cards up, and then we'll come back and do a bit of splattering as well. These live on my IKEA pegboard. They're the IKEA little pots. When I do some stamping or die cutting, any extras go in there. So there we go. Hopefully you can see some of the shine on those two. So same die, same paints, but just 2 variations. This one obviously took a little bit more time than this one. This one was super quick. This looks much brighter in real life than it does down here on camera. I've actually ruined it slightly because I dropped my die cut with the wet glue onto it and then I stuck my hand on it to press it down. I've lifted some of the watercolour paint back off, so if it looks a bit splotchy, I don't think anyone but me would really notice, but that's why. So that's those 2 finished. While I've been making those, these are pretty much dried. There's my samples, and I think they're great for 16p per paint. They're pretty good in comparison with the Gansai Tambi, which, like I said, there's nothing wrong with them. They're great paints. I'm really impressed with that. Absolute bargain, value for money. Completely would recommend those. I don't think they ship at all to the US, so I think this would be one of those things where you want a UK buddy who'll go and buy them and post them to you. It's a nice way to make crafty friends. I did check, the range does ship throughout Europe. Obviously there's a postage charge, so for lower cost items you might want to fill your baskets to make it worthwhile with the postage, depending on where you are in Europe. So let's do a little bit of splattering. This is my makeshift splatter box. I'm going to go with the nice sort of white one, and this is just a piece of the black watercolour card which came with these in the set. This one, which is from the range set, got my fairly clean water. It hasn't completely dried from when I sprayed it earlier, so hopefully it'll get moving quite quickly. Big splats, you want a big paintbrush, and if you want little splats, you want a little paintbrush. So I've gone for a little paintbrush, and we will do little splatters. And I don't think this would need to be on watercolour cardstock. I think you could do this on any cardstock because you don't need it to be able to take a lot of water because we're only splattering. So I think if I put a really lovely flower on there or something, that would be perfect. So this one is the Gansai Tambi one. And I'm just doing this because I know it's a technique that lots of people use these metallic ones for, just to create a really quick background. They're obviously not dry yet. But again, if anything, I think this one, which was the cheaper one, is perhaps slightly more opaque than this one. I don't know. It may just be I put more water on this one, but pretty similar. This isn't watercolour. This is just some of my super smooth, like stamping card. We're going with the 2 that are most similar. They're most similar on black, but actually they're not the most similar on the white, which is interesting, but we'll go with these 2. So this is the cheaper one. This is the Gansai Tambi. And you can see they're not going to be the same colour. And I think this one goes more kind of gold colour as it dries. I think some of the darkness comes out of it. So there's not a huge amount of difference, I don't think, in those, which is the white ones, which I see used a lot when people use black backgrounds. So that's like the white pearly one. I'd say they're pretty close. They're not completely dry, but the thinner blobs on both are. And my camera likes to phase when everything's white, so it's really hard to show you. Both work for that technique as well. Is there any difference? Not to my non-artistic mind. So I've got a little bit of bonus content. When I was doing all those samples, you saw in my little paint dish all the lovely mica. I went inside to my kitchen sink, poured it into a little jug so that I could pour it, and that's all I've done. I've not mixed any more water or anything in it. So that's from all those different colours. And I just poured it into one of these little mini misters and see how it came out. It's going to be like a brownie gold. But let's see if this works. I don't know how much pigment's in it and how much is going to end up on here. I thought rather than all that pigment going to waste, this isn't watercolour card, by the way. This is just the back of some stamping card. This is watercolour card. And let's see if we can get a nice metallic shine just from all that extra pigment. I would say you need to keep shaking this and make sure the pigment's not all settled. But you can see these mini misters don't hold a huge amount. I probably saturated that, but that's fine. It's not watercolour card, but it is really heavyweight card. So it should. We'll see what it shows up like. And this was full, and I've used about half of it on these 3 sheets. So I'm hoping these are going to show up on camera. So this was on the stamping card, and yeah, it's worked really well. It's got, I thought it might just be muddy brown, but it's actually just like a really nice bronzy colour that it's come out. All those colours mixed together. This is watercolour card, and it's sat in the grain of the watercolour card really well. Subtle, but actually it's actually really lovely. It's like a pinky bronze it's come out. I'm hoping you can see why I thought I'm going to save that. Can you see all that lovely swirling pigment? Probably shows up the best on the black. Of course it will, because it's got mica in it, or something metallic. Save your paint water when you're using the metallic. Stick it in a spray bottle, and you can see, hopefully, how quickly it settles back out. So yeah, it's something that you're going to have to keep shaking. Fun bonus technique, using my dirty paint water.